This tutorial is on the changes in version Atlas.ti 7.5 in terms of project management and teamwork, and I will present the major ingredients that will now make up project management. They look like a lot, but actually it has become easier. So what has been given up on is that dichotomy of my library and team library. What you will find now, there will be one default library, which is kind of the equivalent of the older my library, and then you can create as many project libraries as you want, and as many as you need for the projects you are involved in. And that could be a single user project, but also team projects. That's why you won't find the name team library anymore, unless you have already projects set up as the team library. Of course, they will be still be there, and the team library will be visible. But for all new projects, you will see the default library and then any new library that you create. I start with this video with kind of introducing the basics of project management for a single user project, and then from there we move into the specifics of team project and various scenarios. Just to remind you of the basics of project management in Atlas, if you're a single user, add documents to your project, and the default option is to add them to like a data archive, a library where Atlas is taking care of your documents. When we're in Atlas, you will see, and you probably know, that there are many other options as well to add data, but this is just for special cases, type of documents, and so on. So the normal situation is probably that people just add documents to a project. And you will also see that the term library is no longer used. You just add documents to a project. And then you save your project file, and that is the hermeneutic unit, and that is that icon here that you know also from your file manager. And very important is that you always have a copy bundle file as backup, because the copy bundle file, you see, it's your project in a box, contains your HU file and the documents that belong to that one particular project from the library, not the entire library, just checks out the documents that you need for that particular HU and bundles it and puts it in a package. So you need that to transfer your project to a different computer, but also as backup. As soon as you have a copy bundle file and something happens to your computer, you are safe. Things that might happen, people just update a new Windows version and suddenly Windows has wiped off the library, for example. And if there's no copy bundle file, well, normally we can reconstruct projects, but it's always a bit of a hassle. Or people change computers and have no copy bundle files, have no idea about this concept of library and HU, take their project file along, and then they just stand there without documents. So the copy bundle file is essential. So before I move on with that presentation, I will return to that. We go back to Atlas, and we haven't been there, so we're not going back. We're just going to Atlas now. And this is a new hermeneutic unit, it's completely empty. And I better switch languages, but another point, in version 7.5, and we have to go to preferences and language for the interface, and it's set to German now. And I'll put it back to English. So if you change language between English, Spanish, and German, you have to restart the software. So the German now is proper. There has been kind of an intermediate version before, but now it has been finalized, the German interface. So now I'm creating a new project here again, so we can add documents. So you see these other options also to add documents, to import transcript, F4 transcript. There's another new option here, because if people imported their transcript by default, the media files, the video audio files, ended up in the library, and if people had large video files, they didn't really want that. So now you have actually an option to keep those media files external. So only the transcripts are imported. And by the way, if Atlas says import, it does really mean import. So transcript files, so the text files are imported into the HU file. If you import survey data, and I will also do that at the end, it's also internal in the HU. For those cases, if you work with internal documents, also if you create a new text document, there is no need for a copy bundle file because everything is internal if you really only have internal documents. But for all other cases, it's necessary to create this copy bundle file. So then you can add Google Earth documents, snapshots, and so on. Or if you have large sized video files and you don't want to copy them, you can also just link them to your project. So that's the external document option here. So you see, we have documents. There is no My Library team library anymore. Of course, if you already have documents in the team library, then you will see the reference to that. So the team library is not gone, but you cannot create a new project that has a so-called team library. Basically, Atlas just offered two libraries, My and Team, and people were always asking, is there a difference? Well, only a difference in terms of location, but other than that, they were the same. So now I add documents to the library, and I prepared here a little samples data folder, and this is just a general happiness sample data set, and I add these documents. So now it's going to a file quality check, and it will inform you if there is, for example, a video file that's above 150 megabyte, if an audio file has not variable bitrate, and so on, or if you have like OpenOffice documents are currently not supported, and those files then will be listed here, and you can go and improve that. For example, just save an OpenOffice file as rich text document. So here there were no issues with the files. They were imported into, or imported, that was the wrong word, they were actually added to the library. And during that process, the documents were copied. And just move that here. Copied, and they received an ID, like a unique fingerprint. And that is still the case as it used to be also previously. If I add these documents now to a different hermeneutic unit, even on my computer, during the process of adding them to the library, they will receive a fingerprint. And so in my second HU, the documents have the same content, the same name, but for Atlas, they're not the same documents, because the one argument behind this is that maybe you want to have a new project and you want to do something different with the documents, maybe editing it in a different way, whatever. Then if they would use the same data source, you would get in trouble. So every time you add documents to a new project, they will get a new ID. The other option is, of course, if you don't want to have a copy of a document, if you add it again, you can of course add it from the library. Then you will have the identical document. But what happens more often is that in a team, people have the set of documents and everybody starts already setting up the project. And during that process, the document received that unique fingerprint. And then instead of having 9 documents, if we merge the project from me and another team member, we then have 18 documents. It's because Atlas doesn't take these documents as being the same. So if you work in a team, we will see the kind of the images for that later on. It's essential, if you work with the same set of documents, that the project administrator is setting up the project and then distributes a copy bundle file. And let me just save the project here. So we see the process. So we can save or save as, and then we have the option save copy bundle. We have to save the HU first, so I cannot immediately save a copy bundle file. And when I save it into my samples data folder, sample project 7.5 I write here. So the location of the HU doesn't really matter. You can save it wherever you want to. We don't recommend to save it to the cloud because of the characteristics of cloud. They said synchronize across different devices. So in order not to mingle up and having, your cloud handle your HU and then just taking whatever version from whatever device and overwriting a version that you don't want to have overwritten and so on. So we recommend to work locally and only use the cloud as backup. So now I went into the copy bundle saving procedure. So all documents can be bundled. Otherwise there would be a message here telling me which documents cannot be bundled. So if you have a large project, it also helps you to see whether you have an issue with the document. You may not work with all documents. You haven't maybe opened it up for a while, and once you create the copy bundle file, you see whether everything is still fine and everything can be still accessed. The document will be compressed, so the total in terms of size will be probably smaller than the sum of all documents. So now I create the bundle, and of course the idea here is not to save it into my project folder where I have all my other documents, to save it, for example, on an external device. Now it doesn't want to test me the I want to create a folder now here, but I know because it's not connected right now to my computer. That's why it doesn't work. But you get the idea, yeah. That is a backup of your project. Put it somewhere safe. It could be a cloud if you keep track of the versions, or an external device, or a server location where for instance, your institute is backing that up, so you have a safe version of your entire project. Now I just put it here under my folder here, and it will tell me it has been saved. So now I'm on the safe side. Even if my documents or my library, whatever, gets lost, I have my copy bundle file, and if I unpack the copy bundle file, which I won't do right now, then everything is there and I'm up and running again in case something happens. So I'll go back to the primary document manager. Don't need the families right now. So you see the location, it's in my library. So that should be easy. Yeah. And now I want to show you the project specific libraries and when to use what. I mean, lots of team projects could still just work with the standard location if there are no security issues, and that was one of the reasons why we also changed it, because there are multiple people working on different team projects, and they wanted to keep that data in separate locations and not all in one data archive. So I create now a new project and go to set project library. So the easiest thing is, if you start a project and want to work with a project library, you create one right now. You can also always move documents. If you have started with my library, you could switch later to a project specific library. So you see I have a number of libraries here already, yeah, for different projects. So I can actually use any of these already existing libraries for that new project, or I create a new library. And you see Atlas goes directly into the folder where the standard library is. It's probably not on your device. I renamed it for me to say, okay, this is the kind of the default library. Standard is German name actually for default here. And this is a location you see under Up Data Roaming. It is buried somewhere in your file system, and it's actually secure. You cannot, you really have to go there and have to know how to go there, and go to your folders here, and you can't really delete them accidentally. And so this is actually a good place to keep and store your library. So library for sample 7.5. You can name it, you can give it any name, and even though we recommend that location here, where this is under the personal username, but you could in that instance, but basically you can use any location. So for team projects, it might be that you use the server location here where you store your library. So now I created this new library. It doesn't contain any documents yet. So if I add documents now, though this library is set now as the location, it will choose that. Where's my documents folder? It will choose that library. So I take my 9 documents here again and add them. And when we open the PD Manager, now you will see it now uses the location library for sample 7.5. That is how it works with setting up a project specific library. Well, let's save that project as well. I call that project lib. So now I could show you how to move documents into a different library. I have that still open. So here I have the documents in my library. If you say, okay, no, I actually want to switch to a project specific library, I'll go to set project library again and choose that one here and say OK, and it's now saying connecting HU sample project 7.5 to library for sample 7.5, and we'll copy 9 documents to this other library. And it has done it. No, 9 documents are not that much, and you see now the documents are in that library for sample 7.5. So if you have been working with my library or the team library in the past, this is how you would change from these old library folders to a project specific one. So I've been showing you so far how to set up a project with that new system, how to set up a project that uses a project library, and how to move documents from one library to another. It could also be now we could actually say, oh, now we don't want to have these documents in this library. I actually want to put them here into my test library, and you can move it around. What you can not do, let's check pdoc manager. Now it's in my test library. What you cannot do is if you use a project library, move the documents back to the default library, so the standard or the default my library. Reason for that is that it is a location you have seen that Atlas provides that might not be secure, and so if people get a project with a project-specific library, there's certain reasons why they have set it up like that, so users cannot actually then just move it back into the default library. They can just move it only to other project-specific libraries. But let's open the library manager. Under Documents, Data Source Management, open Library Manager. It looks a bit different now as well. So here I have all of my documents for my library, and then the old team library here is still there, and I have the documents here in the other libraries. Yeah, and if you could also remove documents here from these libraries if you know, well, I've moved the documents now here from that library to test, and I don't need that anymore. Or you can also delete selected libraries here. But you should know what you're doing, because basically you might destroy your project here. What we actually could try, and to show you if I delete that library now. You will be warned, you're about to delete this library, and there is a project that uses that library, and so on and so on. But before I actually do that, I close that. This is using the close that project. So it's never good to delete something from a project that is still open. So this project actually uses the test library. You can just double check. We just move the documents to the test library, and now I cannot delete it now because I don't think I have created a copy bundle file from that one, from the one with the project library, so we better do that now. So I create this and put this into my samples folder here for now. Because what I want to show you now, if I delete that library now from my computer, because I have to pretend now I am moving maybe documents around to a different computer, but using just one. If you get a project that does not contain, that has a project library but is not existing on your computer, you can unpack the copy bundle file, and then you will be asked to specify a location for that library, and this is what I want to show you now. I'm on the safe side. I've created my copy bundle file, and go ahead now and delete that one here. So this is gone now. Return to the library manager in a second. So what I want to do now is to unpack the copy bundle file. You can either go project unpack, or you can, if you have it on your file manager, here's my copy bundle file, and can also double click. So this is the message I was looking for. The copy bundle uses a project library. The name is library for sample 7.5. The project library is not known to Atlas.ti on this computer. Please specify the directory that contains the ETU project library. And so if you receive a project that does not have a library, then you can specify where to put it. And the name of the folder doesn't really matter, but we can library for sample 7.5. Yeah, and so that let me continue this first. So now I can unpack, and it will be unpacked to that location. So that actually means if you work with project libraries, if you work in a team, then everybody can specify the location for that project library on their computer. So the location of that project library can be different on each of the team members' computer. And it only, for Atlas, it has that name, sample project or library for sample project 7.5, but everybody can specify where they want to have that library. Now it's unpacked and it shows the library name, and I can load the documents. So that should also make things much easier. Everybody has more control over where they store their document and where their project library should be. And I'm going back to the library manager again. What I want to show you here is that you can still move the library also to a new location. Yeah, so any of these libraries could still, if you don't like that location here, you can still move a library to a different location. Yeah, so basically that's the new handling that hopefully facilitates project management for everyone, not only for teams. That's why the name team library is not there anymore, because of course even as a single user you can work with a project library if you wanted to. So you basically could create a library for each of your projects. I want to return to the my presentation. Here it is again. So we went through that process here, adding documents to the library, saving the HU, creating copy bundle file. I want to tell you something specific about team projects. Very important. Select a project administrator. It can be somebody from the team. It should be somebody who knows Atlas, not an IT person, but one designated person who is doing the job of administrating your project. That person is also setting up the project. In most cases, we will see them. If you start out with different documents in different locations, of course, you can start out like single user projects, but then you need the project administrator to put it all together. Each user, well, I recommend, should create a user account and log in. So everything what you do is stamped with a username. And that's important for team projects. Is for all projects, create a copy bundle file as backup, and then each team member should do that as well. So they have their sub-HUs, so to speak, as copy bundle backup, and then the project administrator has the master project backup. And what's also common in team projects is that you merge these various sub-projects. Usually it is just a manner, it takes about 2-3 minutes. And then this, once you're in the routine, it's not a lot of work to do. So if you're in a team, then you have to make take certain decisions. Should we add documents to the standard library? Or do we create or need a project-specific library for our project? What are the pros and cons for that? Or should the documents be externally linked? And we only recommend that if you work with large-sized video files. You don't have to, if you have gigabytes of video material, if you use the library, the documents are copied into the library, so you duplicate all your documents on your computer. So for that, we still recommend the old-fashioned way of the so-called HU pass. Put the HU and the documents into one folder, that you kind of create your own little container. Creating a copy bundle file is probably also would be, copy bundle file would get too big, but you can take then your project folder that has the HU and all your documents. Documents can be in subfolders. Yeah, you can organize your documents in subfolders, and you can have that on an external drive, for example, and then you just take your folder along if you want to move your project to a different computer. So this is a special consideration if you have large-sized documents. A standard team project might be this distributed teamwork. We have a common set of documents, and then we give that out to different coders that work on particular parts of the documents, or they also code the same documents or different parts of the data. In that situation, you could either use a standard library or you can create a project-specific one. If you use the standard library, then the document will be at the location of the standard library on each of the team members' computers. Yeah, as mentioned, of course, also that red little guy here could also be a team member, just in his extra role here. Yeah, so if you unpack the copy bundle file here or everybody unpacks it, then it ends up in that standard library with all the other documents. If you don't want that, well, create a project-specific library, as have been shown. You create that first, add documents, save the HU, create a copy bundle file, and send that to all team members. If they unpack it, they will be asked where they want to store the document. So they will get the message, as we have seen before, that the project library does not exist yet on their computer. Where do they want to have it? And then they can decide where they want to store their data. And the continued project work in that situation, if documents are not edited, yeah, if the documents are once distributed to everyone and everybody has the documents on their computer and they're not modified, then you can simply send HU files back and forth. Yes, there's no need to send bundles around. You have your copy bundle as backup, but the administrator doesn't need your copy bundle files. He or she has all the documents, everybody else has it on their computer. He or she merges the HU files, create a new master file, send that new master file to the team members. They replace it or will continue to work with the new version and so on. So that cycle then continues. The second scenario would be we have an initial different set of documents that are analyzed at each site, and then we bring it together. 3 locations, 3 countries. People have been collecting documents at different locations and so on. So here, to keep it simple, the team members should use the standard library. Because if they use project-specific libraries, their admin has lots of work. Because he gets a project from that first person, our green little guy here, or whatever, women could also be. And and then, well, unpacks it on his or her computer and creates a project-specific library. Then he gets another one with a project-specific library, which then is a different project-specific library. So then the admin has to move the documents from that project-specific library to that project-specific library. Same here, unpacks it, creates another project-specific library. So the admin then has 3 project libraries, but then has to move all the documents into one of these, or into a master library, whatever, before the files can be merged and a new master HU can be created. So it's much easier if at this stage, if you start working like that, you add the documents to your library on your computer. And as I shown before, if you don't like the location of that standard library, you have the option to move it to any location you want. Then the project admin receives all the copy bundle files, unpacks them, merges the file, and if then the team wants to continue to work with a project library, then the project admin at this stage here, when basically when creating a new master file, can then move all documents into a project library, save the HU, creates copy bundle files, and distributes it to everyone. If they unpack, they will be asked then to create create a folder for this project-specific library, and if they unpack it, of course, then they will get all the documents from all 3 locations, or 3 coders, 3 researchers, whatever. So here the recommendation is to really start with the default library, and only at this stage here switch to a project library. That makes things easier for the project admin. And continued project work, if documents are not edited, it's the same. Now everybody has the same set of documents in the same project library. Again, it's only the name that's important for Atlas. The location of that project library is likely different on each of these persons' computers. Well, if you do edit documents, then the only difference is that you have to send copy bundle files. You have documents are modified, then you need to send the entire project again. I'm always saying it's be careful with modifying documents if you work in a team, because if here the blue person modifies P10 because there were some typos, whatever, and the green person also recognizes some typos and modifies something else in the same documents, you're going to have 2 versions of the document. You're going to lose one. That cannot be brought together. So if you edit documents in teams, you have to be very specific and say, well, you are responsible for P1 to P10, and you code those documents, and if you find mistakes and errors or need to complete transcripts or whatever, do that on the document you are responsible for. And you're responsible for P11 to P20. You can modify everything you want within those documents, but please don't touch the other ones. Same here for the yellow person, responsible for documents P21 to P30. She or he can modify the documents, and if that's the case, then the project admin needs copy bundle files. So that's the difference between editing and not editing, plus the added administrative layer that you do have to tell people this is what you're responsible for, and please do not touch the other documents, otherwise we're going to lose one of the coded versions here. And then we have a third scenario if you use a server. In that scenario, there's the clear recommendation to work with a project-specific library. Yeah, why should you use move the standard library to the server? Here it would be easier to create a project library on the server and add the documents. Here the copy bundle file serves as backup, so should also be created, but there's no need to send copy bundle files to the various team members because they can access the master and you probably also on the server make a copy, and I always recommend to add their name or the initial. So we have different sub AU files, so the project admin is not getting confused here. In the end, having 3 names or AUs with the same name to merge, so make it easy for the project admin, add your name and initial to the file name, and then take a copy, so the documents are registered basically to that project library on the server, and what they need to have access to is the server location. So if they have issues in opening the documents, they need to talk to the admin and say, well, the documents are on H whatever, and it seems I do not have access to that, and then on the IT side, the team members have to be given access to the location on the server, but that is outside of Atlas, so to speak. Of course, you have to make sure that people have access to these documents. And for continued project work, then the admin once in a while collects these HU files. Some teams, of course, do it also every evening or once a week, that all of these files are then merged into a new master HU, and then you can add the date, and then they take a copy of the new master file, and so on. And that's so we have the image here for the continued project work that I've been just talking about. So the admin then here creates a new master file, adds a date, they take a copy again, and maybe can also leave the date so they know which version actually is that of the new master file. So all of this can happen on the server. You have to deal with AU files, only the project files, and these project files access the documents in the project library on the server. And as always, with all of these projects, also if you're on the server, just to be on the safe side, to create copy bundle files as backup. I just need to repeat it there often because we get all these cases at the help desk, and that's then, if there is any trouble, this is most of the time what's missing, and it would be so much easier to just recreate a project from a copy bundle file than having a developer sit there, reconnect documents. Most of the time it's possible, but it's hassle and it's headache for you, and it's probably people are afraid that they have lost all their work. Do yourself a favor, have proper backups, and this basically it has to do with the nature of computers, that things just happen. They just crash, or Windows crashes, or hard disks fail, all these things, or Windows overwrites everything, and so on. So do think of your proper backup file. While I've been talking, I thought I should actually go back to Atlas.ti and show you how to merge projects. So here we have a number of projects and you see they actually have this is a project has linked documents. This one has a project specific library. That one also has a project libraries, and this we can call it up, should have my library. and this is also I want to point out here, this is the transcript, and this transcript is in the HU because it has been added via this option import. It has been actually a transcript created in Atlas, and it's actually a new text document that has been created, and that's also in the HU, same as that document, and we have the survey data here. In order not to make this video, it's already long, I guess, I don't want to show it, but this the survey import, the process, but these are the imported survey data, and you see it's all in the HU file. We get people wonder if they create a copy bundle file if they only have survey data, and Atlas will tell them nothing will be bundled, and they're just confused. If you only have documents that are in the HU, nothing can be bundled because everything is in the HU file. So this is why you might get that message here. So here we have the documents in my library, and now let me do it first I open this project that has the documents in the test library. So this is a project library. So I do it the way you're supposed to do, and then I do it the other way around, and I explain why it doesn't work the other way around. So you can only merge projects that have that use a project library into the HU with the project specific library. So now I have this, my target here is the HU with the project library, and I did it here are the sample files, and now I use my children analysis exercise one, and this one we have checked this has the standard library, and then we define all the merge strategies. So we have different PDs, different codes, they're completely different projects that we now merge. Just a note here: if most of your codes are the same, you have a common set of documents, and you start with a common set of codes, please do use the option same PDs, same codes. Even if some of the codes are different, your coders have added some codes, they will not be lost if you say same PDs, same codes. Happens here that all PDs are merged with, remember, PDs with the same ID, and the codes that have the same name will be merged, and all other codes that don't occur in all HUs, they will be added, so they won't be lost. You can do some fine tuning here. For example, add quotations if you want to compare the coding of different coders for intercoder reliability and so on. So these are specific options, or sometimes you don't want to include PD families and you leave them out and so on. So you can do some fine tuning, but let's stay up with different PDs and codes, and I go to finish. And it will give me the merge report. I can quickly check, okay, start out with 38 documents in the source and 2 in the target HU, and go back here to the end. Okay, it does make sense. It seems to be 40 documents after the merge. So I use this report for plausibility check. You don't really have to check everything else in between here. And just look, how do I start out, how does the merged HU look like? And now all documents, and apart from the ones that are already in the HU, will be in the project library. So the target HU, so the HU that I start out with, where I merge stuff into, that will be the one that wins. I have to go back to my slides here, that one, because that will be the situation now. If that person starts with a project-specific library, I merge that one into the other one. It's going to use that project-specific library to end up with. So it's not as complicated as I mentioned it, but it will be then the project library of that first person, and not the one maybe the admin wants. Yeah, I had recommended to start here with the default library and then let the project admin decide whether all of these documents then should be moved into a common master project library for that particular project. So that would be the option that way around. So I do not actually save this now, discard all changes and close. And now I want to show you how it works if you start with my library, project that contains my library, and merge it into a project, or merge a project into it that has a project specific library. We will get an error message, or a note, basically, not an error message. Yeah, so it will tell you, and also it's a long text, but if you read it, it has the instruction what to do. It says you cannot merge an HU that uses a project library into one that uses my library, and it will give you the library names. However, you can merge a source HU using my library into a target HU using a project library. So the target is always the one you start out with. And please retry using Alarm and Trust as the target and Children and Happiness for Analysis as source. So that's what we did at the beginning. The reason for that is that if somebody uses a project library, probably for good reason. So through merging, it's very likely that then suddenly you don't want all these documents into the default library again. So that's why this option does not work, so that not accidentally all documents end up in the standard library, or the default library again. Yeah, my in German we would say Standard Bibliothek, so it's the default library. So let's try one other option, and I open the Alarm and Trust again, and let's look at that one here, just to. So we have the Bib for Beaters project here. So the Bib for Bibliothek library, and we merge that project now into the Alarm and Trust project. And the same different PDs and codes, and that contains two different projects. So it has been adding, we had 2 in the source, 2 in the target, see what the end result is. 4 documents after the merge, so it added those documents, and they're all in the test library. Yeah, so this is going to make distributed teamwork a bit easier. And to sum up this video presentation, I would like to offer some recommendation when to use the default library and when to create a project-specific library. So basically, use the default my library for all normal single-user projects. They doesn't really or seldom should be a reason why you should not use it. And we will come to the exceptions then when we talk about project libraries. The recommendation is, if you worked in distributed team projects, so you start up basically setting up single user projects at first, and then they will be merged at a later stage. You can use the default library at that stage, and then the project administrator later on can turn these into project libraries, or the project using a project library if you feel the need for that. And it's also optional for distributed team projects when you have a common set of documents. If you work on standalone computers, you may as well use the default library. There is not a reason and a must kind of a reason that you have to use a project library. You could also use the standard default library. So now we come the exceptions. And that list might get longer because there might be different specific setups at different locations in your institutions. It'd be difficult to foresee all of that, but these are some of the known ones. Yeah, as the default location, you see that here at the bottom is on the C drive normally, or wherever the user's folder is stored, and then you have the username, and then in a folder called update roaming scientific software Atlas.ti. And in some settings, this user folder or everything related to a particular user is cleaned up by the IT department, either every evening or once a month. And then this would mean that default library would be wiped out, every evening or once a month, and your data is gone. And you can only reestablish it via a copy bundle file. So that's not really a good situation. So then it would make sense to create a project library at a location that you have control over and that is not wiped off by your IT department. Another situation is if you do not have access to that default location here because of some restrictions by your IT department. You can simply, or the Atlas simply cannot access that folder. Then you create your own and you're up and running. The general recommendation is if you set up a team project at a shared location not to move the default library to that shared location, because people might have team project and single user project, then to create a project specific library at this shared location, a server usually. And the next option, if you set up a number of different team projects and the data of each project should not all be stored in the same folder. Yeah, if you had only the previous situation, you only had one team library and all documents of all 5, 6, 7 team projects ended up in that one folder, and that was not desired. So now you can set up a project library for each of these different projects, or if you're already using the team library, have that situation, open up the HU, move the documents from that old location into a project specific one, and we'll only take the documents that are relevant for that particular HU and move it into its project specific library, and do that for all projects you have. So now you can start distributing it into different folders. You can of course use the project library also for distributed teamwork with common set of documents, even though it's not necessary, or for distributed teamwork with different set of documents. And here the recommendation is to do it after merging and not when setting up the project. But as we have seen, where you can do it, then during the process of merging, the documents are merged into the library of the target HU. So if you keep all these things in mind or practice them a bit, they're similar as a small test HUs I have. So if you're all new to that, then you can play around a bit and figure out what is the best solution for your particular setup. So I wish you good luck, and hopefully it has become easier now with version 7.5. And with version 8, I can already tell you, you don't have to worry about all of this. Also not if you start using the Mac version now, which comes out in September 17th. They just work with a project file, so there won't be any libraries anymore. So if you're a Mac user, this is only for Windows user, but Mac is not version 7.5, so you shouldn't have watched this video up to this point. But the Mac version can already point a bit away into what will also come in version 8 of Atlas.ti early summer next year.